Think about a medieval battle for a moment. Everyone talks about the big fights, the clash of swords, the brave charges, the smart plans of kings and generals. But the truth is, the real danger often came after the main fighting stopped. Most soldiers did not die during the actual battle. The battle itself was almost the safest time for a common soldier. Why? Because they stood together in tight lines. There were shields in front, spears sticking out, friends on both sides. Even if things were going bad, the group kept some protection. You could block attacks, help each other, and stay alive longer. But everything changed the second the line broke. When soldiers saw their friends running, fear took over. The whole army started to flee. That moment turned the battlefield into a deadly hunt. History books from the Crusades and wars in Europe tell us clear stories. In many fights, thousands died or got captured, not in the main clash, but during this chase. One old record mentions up to 13,000 men lost in the retreat phase alone. These were not deaths from fair fights. These men were chased like animals in the wild. As soon as the enemy army broke and ran, the winning side let their fast cavalry go. These were not the heavy knights in full armor you see in movies. Those men were too slow and tired. No, these were light horsemen on quick, fresh horses. Their only job was to chase the runners. Imagine this. A tired foot soldier is running for his life. He is wearing heavy armor that slows him down. The ground is muddy from rain or trampled from the fight. He trips over bodies or weapons. Behind him, he hears the thunder of hooves getting closer. There is no wall to hide behind, no friends to help. A lance strikes his back, or a sword cuts him down from behind. It was quick, cold, and one-sided. The roads after the battle became horrible scenes. Bodies lay everywhere, piled up in narrow paths. Streams turned red from blood. This was not just a story to make things sound dramatic. When thousands of scared men tried to escape through the same small areas, death came fast and in huge numbers. Commanders knew this very well. They saved their best cavalry for exactly this moment. During the main battle, fights were back and forth. You might hurt someone, but they could hurt you too. Both sides had a chance. But in the retreat, there was no chance. No defense. No way to fight back. Surrender was often ignored because the chasers were moving too fast. Why did they kill so? Many simple reasons. Dead enemies could not come back later. They could not join another army or attack again. Killing them now made the victory complete and safe. The winning soldiers felt they had to finish the job. Every man they caught was a threat removed forever. Peasants and camp followers sometimes joined in too. They saw easy chances to take weapons, clothes, or coins from the fallen. But the main killing came from the cavalry. It was fast, efficient, and brutal. This part of the battle was not about honor or glory. It was about survival for the winners and pure terror for the losers. Men ran until their legs gave out. Some drowned in rivers trying to cross. Others fell in fields and were trampled or finished off. The ground stayed bloody for days. The smell of death filled the air. Birds and animals came to feed, and this was normal in medieval wars. Everyone knew the rules. If your side lost and ran, survival chances dropped to almost zero. The retreat was where the true body count happened. That is the dark reality behind those old stories of victory. The battle looked exciting from far away. But up close, when the lines broke, it became a nightmare of running, screaming, and dying under horses' hooves. Soldiers who made it through the chase often said the same thing later. The retreat felt much worse than the actual fighting. In the battle line, you had a fair chance. You could raise your shield, swing your weapon, and fight back. Friends were around you. There was hope, even if small. But when you ran, everything flipped. You turned your back to fast horsemen with sharp lances and swords. You knew one wrong step could end it all. The sound of hooves behind you grew louder. Your heart pounded. Fear took over completely. Every second felt like it could be your last breath. Many historians now say this mental terror hurt more than any sword cut. The fear of being hunted down stayed with survivors for life. If you were lucky and escaped, the main chase may be you hid in thick trees, crawled into a ditch, or rolled under bushes. You thought it was over. But no, you just stepped into the next horrible part of the aftermath. Now picture this. You are badly hurt. Maybe an arrow stuck in your shoulder, or a sword sliced your leg deep. Blood soaks your clothes. You are tired from running. Your unit is gone. You don't know where anyone is. Pain shoots through your body with every move. You lie there on the cold, muddy ground. The sun is setting, or maybe it's already dark. Smoke from fires hangs in the air. You hear distant screams and horses, and then people start coming. Not to help in the way you hope. They come to finish things. This brings us to what they called the coup, the grace, the blow of mercy. This was not rare or random. After most big medieval battles, soldiers walked slowly across the field. They carried special thin daggers called Miséricorde. The name means mercy blade in Old French. These were long, narrow, sharp-pointed knives. They were made exactly for one job, to slip through small gaps in armor. If a knight or soldier wore full plate armor and lay wounded, a normal sword or knife might bounce off. But the Miséricorde was different. It was thin like a needle. You could push it through the eye slits of a helmet straight into the brain, or find the weak spots under the arm, at the joints, through the visor. One quick thrust, and it was over. Fast dot soldiers called this mercy, and in some ways, maybe it was. Medieval medicine was terrible back then. No painkillers like today. No doctors to fix deep wounds quickly. If you had a bad gut wound or crushed bones, you would lie there for days. Infection would set in. Pain would grow worse every hour. You would scream until you couldn't anymore, then die slowly in agony. A quick end with the dagger might have stopped that suffering. But let's be honest about what really happened. You are on the ground, fully awake, blood everywhere, your body on fire with pain. You beg for water or help. Then a man walks up. He kneels next to you. Without saying much, he holds your head or pushes your helmet aside. He lines up the thin blade and drives it hard, maybe through your eye or under your arm into your arm. It's over in seconds. This happened again and again, systematically, row by row. They went through the whole battlefield. Not just enemies, sometimes their own men too. If the wounds looked hopeless, why did they do it so much? Mercy was one reason, but there were darker, practical reasons too. Wounded men cause. big problems. They moaned and screamed all night, which scared everyone. They took up space. They needed food and water that winners wanted for themselves. And worst of all, if left alive, some might recover and fight again later, or tell stories, or cause. Trouble so killing them cleared the field. It made things quieter. It removed future threats. And after that, the bodies were easier to handle. Strip clothes, take weapons, search for coins. This was the ugly side of medieval war that books often skip. We love stories of brave charges and smart plans, but the truth is, much of the killing happened after the fight stopped, in the quiet fields, with screams and thin daggers. No glory, no songs about heroes, just pain, fear, and a quick end. Survivors remembered it forever. They said it showed what war really was, not clean or honorable, but raw and terrifying. The battlefield finally grows quiet. The sounds of horses chasing men have faded. The screams from the wounded have mostly stopped after the mercy blades did their work. For a short time, the field feels empty, just bodies, broken weapons, and the smell of blood and smoke hanging in the air. But that silence does not last long. Very soon, sometimes even before the last shots or clashes end, on distant parts of the field the next group arrives. These are the scavengers. They come like a wave. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. They move fast because they know time is short. Who are these people? Not just strangers from far away. Many are right there with the army, camp followers who cook, carry supplies, and wait for this moment. Local peasants from nearby villages who heard the battle and ran over. Some soldiers from the winning side who finished their duties and now look for extra gain. And sometimes professional looters, men who follow armies from battle to battle, just for this chance to take what others leave behind to them. A dead soldier is not a tragedy. He is a prize. Think about what one dead man carries. A good sword or dagger worth a lot of money, a helmet, shield, or pieces of armor, chainmail or plate that could sell for a high price in any town, clothes, boots, belts, rings, necklaces, or small coins, hidden in pockets. Even personal things like a lucky charm or a letter from home. All of it just lying there, no one to claim it. Medieval weapons and armor cost a fortune back then. A full suit of plate armor could be worth more than a simple farmer earned in his whole life. A horse's saddle or bridle alone could feed a family for months. So when thousands of men lay dead or stripped already, the field turned into a huge open market, free for anyone quick enough. The scavengers worked fast and smart. They moved from body to body. First, they pulled off anything valuable on the outside, helmets, swords, belts with pouches. Then they stripped the clothes, tunics, hose, shoes. Sometimes they left the body naked on the ground. Naked bodies were worth nothing anymore, but the clothes and gear could be sold or used. They searched everywhere, under armor for hidden coins, in boots for small treasures, even inside mouths sometimes, because people hid gold there. If a body had good armor, they might drag it away to sell later or strip it right there. This was not quiet work. Men shouted to each other. Over here, this one has a nice dagger. This knight's ring is gold. Laughter mixed with the sounds of ripping cloth and metal clinking. Some argued over who saw an item first. Fights broke out if someone tried to take too much. The winner's army sometimes let this happen. Why? Because it kept their men happy. Soldiers got extra pay this way without the commander spending money. And the field got cleared faster, fewer bodies to bury or burn. But for the local peasants, this was their big chance too. Many lived poor lives. A good sword or armor piece could change everything, sell it and buy land, food, or tools. Some villagers sent whole groups, men, women, even children. They came with carts or bags to carry what they found. Not everything was taken right away. If the army planned to stay nearby, they might guard the best items for themselves. Nobles looked for rich captives, first to ransom them for money, then for fancy gear. Common soldiers got the rest. The ground changed fast. Bodies that were once proud warriors became bare and broken. Blood-soaked grass turned muddy from feet walking over it. Piles of clothes and weapons grew here and there. The air filled with the smell of sweat, dirt, and death. This phase could last hours or even days if the army did not move on quickly. The more time passed, the more people came from farther villages, drawn by word of a big battle. And while this looting happened, the real cost stayed hidden. These were men who had families, dreams, fears, now reduced to things to grab. No one sang songs about the scavengers. No one wrote poems about stripping the dead. But it was part of every big, medieval battle. Practical, normal. Expected. The battlefield that started with proud banners and marching men ended like this. Quiet at first, then buzzing with people, taking everything they could carry after the soldiers and camp followers took what they wanted. The battlefield turned into something like a busy market, but silent and grim. Every piece of gear had real value back then. A strong sword wasn't just a weapon. It could equal months of hard work for a normal person. Even simple clothes mattered a lot. Shirts, pants, boots, belts, everything was handmade. Nothing was cheap or easy to replace. So when thousands of bodies lay there, the field became a treasure chest waiting to be emptied. The stripping happened fast. Within just a few hours, most bodies ended up completely naked. No armor left, no weapons, no helmets, shields, or boots. No shirts, no pants, not even undergarments. If something could be worn, carried, or sold, someone took it. Old records describe scenes where you couldn't tell which side the dead men had fought for. No colors, no badges, no signs at all, just bare skin on the cold ground. This wasn't done with care or respect. People worked quickly and roughly. They rolled bodies over to reach straps and buckles. They cut leather ties with knives. If a ring was stuck on a finger, they sometimes broke the finger to pull it off. In some cases, if a dead man's teeth had gold in them or gold fillings, looters pried open mouths and took the gold. It was cold, mechanical work, like harvesting crops, but from human bodies. And here's the darkest truth of all. Not every body was fully dead yet. Some wounded men still breathed. They were too weak to move or fight back, but awake enough to feel everything. They watched strangers pull off their boots, cut away their shirts, take their rings, and leave them naked and exposed. In pain, helpless, knowing they were being robbed while still alive. Some accounts say looters didn't Wait, if a man was slow to die and in the way, they ended him quickly with a knife or club, just to finish the job faster. The line between wounded soldier who might live and dead body ready for looting disappeared completely in those chaotic hours. The winning army got first choice, of course. Their soldiers were often allowed to take whatever they found as extra. Pay. Medieval armies didn't pay much in coins, so looting was part of the deal, like a bonus for risking your life. Finders keepers was the main rule. A soldier who spotted a fancy sword or good armor kept it. Commanders sometimes took the best items for themselves, especially anything from rich knights or nobles, because those could be sold for big money later. Once the army men finished, the real rush started. Local peasants came out from nearby. Villagers, these were poor farmers, women, and sometimes children who had hidden during the fighting. Now they saw their chance. A strong pair of boots could mean food for the family for a week. A helmet or chainmail shirt might pay rent or buy. Tools for months. They arrived in large groups, carrying sacks, baskets, or small carts. They searched every spot the soldiers missed. Nothing was left behind. Then came the professionals groups who followed armies from one battle to the next. These weren't random people. They were organized. They had carts pulled by horses or oxen. They carried sharp tools for cutting straps and sorting gear. They worked in teams. One group stripped bodies, another sorted weapons and armor by quality, a third loaded. Everything neatly. It looked almost like a dark version of farmers gathering crops, fast, planned, and efficient. But humans weren't the only ones coming. Animals smelled the blood from miles away. Dogs from nearby villages ran in packs. Wolves came bolder at night. Ravens and crows filled the sky in huge numbers, so many that sometimes they blocked the sun. Rats crawled out from holes. These animals didn't wait politely. They fought with the looters. Stories tell of men kicking away hungry dogs to reach a body first. Crows picked at eyes and soft parts while people worked nearby. Wolves sometimes dragged whole bodies into the woods if no one stopped them. In 1 or 2 days, the field changed completely. Thousands of dead men turned into naked corpses, scattered bones starting to show, and a thick, sickening smell of death everywhere. All the valuable things, metal, leather, cloth, weapons vanished. They didn't disappear, they moved. Into villages, towns, markets. Armor got cleaned and sold again. Swords sharpened and reused. Cloth washed and turned into new clothes. Metal melted down for tools or coins. A whole network of traders, blacksmiths, and merchants handled battlefield salvage. It fed the local economy like a sudden flood of goods. Think about the size of it. After a big battle with thousands dead, tons of material entered the world again. Metal from armor and weapons, leather from belts and boots, wool and linen from clothes. All of it got repaired, resold, or repurposed. What started as proud equipment on living men ended up in everyday use across towns and farms. This wasn't a small side thing. It was a major part of how medieval wars worked. The battle ended with glory for some, but the aftermath fed hundreds through looting, selling, and reuse. The dead gave everything they had, one last time. The dead gave up everything they owned. And that stuff kept moving in the world. A knight's full armor might end up split between 5 different people. One man took the helmet, another the chest plate, someone else the leg guards. Swords got melted down or reshaped into plows and sickles for farms. Shirts and tunics were washed, patched up, and sold again in small village markets. Leather from belts and boots found new owners. The battlefield fed a whole hidden world of buying and selling. No one saw it as strange or bad. The dead no longer needed their things. The living did. It was that simple. What surprises me most is how we forget this money side of medieval wars. We talk about brave knights, smart plans, and big victories. But for many people, they're common soldiers, camp followers, local peasants. The real question was not honor or glory. It was, how much can I take home? How will this help my family eat better or fix the roof? The battlefield was not only a place of death. It was also a sudden marketplace where business exploded. For most ordinary people, that mattered far more than any king's strategy or lord's politics. Now we come to one of the strangest parts of all medieval warfare, the ransom system. In many battles, whether you lived or died had almost nothing to do with how brave you fought, how deep your wounds were, or even which side won. It came down to one thing: how much money your family could pay. Medieval war had a clear money ladder. At the top were knights and nobles. They were worth something alive. If you captured one, you did not kill him. You kept him safe and asked for payment. This was so normal that people had set prices. A simple knight might cost a certain amount, a baron more, an earl even higher. A duke could bring in a fortune. These rates were known and used like a price list. It was built right into how war worked. For nobles, this made fighting strange. Yes, it was dangerous. An arrow or a lucky spear could kill anyone, rich or poor. Accidents happened. But if you survived the main fight and got captured instead of killed, things usually turned out okay. You were not thrown in a dark hole. You got held in a castle or a nice house. Guards watched you, but you ate good food. Servants helped you. Sometimes you even joined meals or talked with your captors. The goal was to keep you healthy, so your family would pay fast. Families raised the money any way they could, selling land, borrowing, asking friends. Once paid, you went home. Some knights got captured more than once in their lives. It became almost normal. Fight, lose, get taken, wait a few months in comfort, pay up, go home. Later, maybe you captured someone else and made your money back. It felt like a violent game with high stakes. Most pieces survived and just moved around for cash. There was even more trust in this system. Sometimes, captors let a knight go home early on his word of honor. He promised to come back with the ransom or send it later. And most did. Why? Because your honor was everything. If you broke that promise and ran away, no one would ever trust you again. You would be shamed forever. No one would pay ransom for you if you got caught later. The whole thing worked on trust between rich men. But this good treatment was only for the top. For everyone else, peasants, common foot soldiers, archers without land or titles, it was different. You had no value. Your family had no money or connections. No one would pay even a small amount for you. So what happened? Most were killed right there. If not during the fight or retreat, then later. Mercy blades finished many. Others got stripped and left to die. Some might be forced to work as servants or laborers for a short time, but usually there was no point keeping them. They cost food and space. They could not pay, so they died. This shows the cold truth of medieval war. Life had a price tag. If you had money behind you, you had a good chance to live, even after losing. If not, the battlefield offered no mercy. Nobles played a game of capture and pay. Common men just tried to survive the day. The system kept going because everyone at the top agreed it worked. It made war profitable for the rich. It limited total death among their class. But for the poor who filled the armies, it was never fair. If you were a captured peasant or common soldier, things looked very bad. Your family had no gold or silver to offer, no powerful lords or friends to speak for you. Nothing made you worth the trouble of keeping alive. So what usually happened? Most were killed right away. Sometimes they made you do hard work first, like digging ditches or carrying supplies. But in the end, death came. No one wanted to waste time or food on you. Take the famous Battle of Crécy as an example. Longbow arrows flew through the air, hitting everyone the same way. Nobles and peasants fell side by side, blood mixing on the muddy ground. Screams filled the air from both. But after the fight, the treatment split wide open. Rich captives, knights with titles, were gathered up carefully. Their wounds got bandaged. They sat in tents, waiting for families to pay up and take them home. Meanwhile, the ordinary soldiers, they were finished off without a second thought. Slaughtered in groups, their bodies left where they fell. That was the hard line. Money meant life. No money meant death. People back then did not see this as mean or wrong. It was just smart business. Why keep poor prisoners? They ate your army's bread and meat. They needed guards to watch them day and night. And if they escaped, they might join another fight against you later. Killing them saved problems and resources. It was cold, but it made sense in their world. When you think deeper, the class gap hits hard. Imagine two men on the same field. Both hurt the same, maybe a deep sword cut in the leg, blood pouring out, pain making them groan. They lie close, maybe even talking to each other, but one is a duke's son. Guards come, lift him gently, take him to a healer. He lives, goes home, tells stories. The other, a farmer's boy. No one cares. A soldier walks by, ends him with a quick blade. Same place, same hurt, totally different endings. Your birth, who your parents were, decided if capture led to talks about money. Or a fast grave. Old records show this clear. Writers listed every captured noble by name. Lord So-and-so, taken ransom, set at 500 gold coins. They tracked who paid what, who went free, but the dead peasants. Just a quick note, many common men slain, no names, no counts. They were like background noise, not worth the ink. The big story was always the rich prisoners and their deals. Here's an even darker side. Sometimes, soldiers fought extra hard over one rich knight. In the middle of battle, chaos, groups from the same side might push each other away to grab him first. He's mine. They yelled, swords clashing, not with enemies, but friends. Why? Whoever got him alive collected the full ransom, maybe enough to buy a farm or horse. Meanwhile, poor soldiers got cut down like weeds just to clear the path. Number 1 chased them for value. They were in the way. For some knights, ransom became their main way to get rich. They joined wars not for king or god, but for profit. Capture a baron today, live easy tomorrow, they thought. It was like investing. Money in a shop, but with armor and risk, and it paid off. Some built fortunes this way, big houses, land, servants, all from enemy prisoners. But what shocks me most is how both sides agreed to this game. French knights ransomed English ones. English did the same for French. They fought hard, but at the end, they shook hands over money. Why? Because they were all nobles first, enemies second. They shared fancy lives, spoke the same languages, went to the same tournaments. They had way more in common with each other than with the dirty, poor foot soldiers marching beside them. The real split was not countries, but class rich versus everyone else. This ransom setup shows class power at its rawest. We talk about privilege today, but back then it meant life or death. Your family name decided if prison was comfy with wine and beds, or a ditch with a knife, and no one complained. It felt normal, like the sun rising. Knights were special, peasants were not. End of story. It makes you think about our world now. What things do we accept as just how it is that later people will call horrible? Maybe money deciding healthcare, or jobs, or safety. History warns us to look closer. Now, after all the killing, mercy ends, and looting, what next? The field is full of bodies, maybe 5,000 naked ones rotting under the sun. No one plans for that mess, but it turns into a huge problem fast. Not just gross, but dangerous for health. Dead bodies start to smell bad in hours. Flies buzz everywhere. Sickness could spread to winners, locals, animals. So they had to act quick. This leads to the mass graves, big pits, where everything ended. Workers, often forced peasants or low soldiers, grabbed shovels and started digging. Long trenches, deep enough to hold hundreds. The ground was hard or muddy. Backs ached, but they kept going. Bodies got dragged or carried over, one by one. Sometimes carts helped, piled high with limp arms and legs hanging out. The smell grew. Worse as they worked, a mix of blood, sweat, and decay that stuck in your nose for days. Into the pits they went, layer after layer, like stacking wood. No fancy burials, no prayers for most, just dirt thrown on top to cover it all. If the battle was huge, pits stretched long, like scars on the land. Rain might fill them with water, making it messier. Birds circled overhead, waiting for scraps. At night, animals dug at the edges. This cleanup could take days or weeks. Armies wanted to move on, but leaving bodies meant disease, fever, plague risks. Villages nearby suffered too water, poisoned, air foul. So mass graves were the fix. Quick, cheap, out of sight. Archaeologists find these pits today. Bones tangled, no graves goods, just hurried ends. It shows the final ugly truth. Wars. Glory fades, leaving only rot and dirt after the fighting stopped. The looting finished, and the mercy blades put away. One huge problem remained. Thousands of naked bodies lying everywhere. They could not stay there. Rot set in fast. In summer heat, a body starts to bloat and smell within hours. Flies come in clouds. Maggots appear. The stink spreads for miles. Water nearby turns bad if bodies are close. Disease follows fever. Sickness that could kill the winners, the locals, even animals. No one wanted that. The area would become unlivable. So something had to happen quick. Who did the work? Usually, the winning army forced it on the local peasants. The soldiers wanted to move on to the next fight or home. They had no time for digging. So villagers, farmers, women, sometimes kids got stuck with the job. Shovels in hand, faces covered with rags. They started. First came a quick check for important dead. Heralds and officers walked the field slowly. They looked at shields, banners, rings, or faces if they knew them. This one is Lord Sonso, they'd say. Those bodies got special care. Pulled aside, cleaned a bit, wrapped if possible. Families paid to get them back for proper funerals. More money in the system. But for almost everyone else, nothing. No name, no story. Just another corpse among thousands. Anonymous in death, like they. Where, in life then, the real hard part? Disposal. The main way was mass graves. Dig a huge pit or long trench. Throw the bodies in. Cover with dirt. Simple in idea, but horrible in practice. The scale made it awful. A big battle could leave 3,000, 5,000, even 10,000 dead. Each body needs space, say 6 to 8 cubic feet when piled. That means digging 20,000 to 40,000 cubic feet of earth. No machines back then. Just men and boys with shovels, picks, maybe wooden boards to carry dirt. The field was already messed. Up holes from hooves, blood-soaked mud, broken weapons everywhere. Digging took days, sometimes weeks. Arms hurt, backs broke. Sweat mixed with the smell of death. A famous example comes from the Battle of Visby in 1361. Archaeologists dug up the site later and found over 1,185 bodies in just one pit. One single pit. And here's what shocked everyone. Many still wore there. Armor, full chainmail, helmets, even plates. Why? The summer heat made bodies rot so fast. Swelling, leaking, flies everywhere. The locals could not strip them quick enough. Waiting meant more disease. So they gave up. Threw the bodies in with all their gear still on. Armor worth months or years of wages, gone forever in the dirt. That shows how desperate things got. Value meant nothing when survival was on the line. In that pit, bodies lay jumbled. Some face down, arms twisted. Others on top, legs bent wrong. No order, no prayers, no care. Just thrown in like trash to cover fast. Tangled together, bones mixed. It looked exactly like panic. Get them underground before worse sickness comes. Visby was not special. This happened after almost every big medieval battle. Peasants dug giant holes near Agincourt, Toten, Grunwald, everywhere. Today, builders or road workers still find them. A farmer plows deep, hits bones, or construction stops when skulls appear. All the same, large pits, many bodies, hurried burials, no fancy stones, no names. The work was brutal. By the time digging finished, bodies had lain in sun for days, bloated like balloons, skins split, fluids leaked. The smell, a thick sweet rot that stuck in your throat, made men gag. No gloves, no masks, just bare hands dragging arms and legs. Cloth wrapped around faces helped a little, but not much. Sometimes they sprinkled lime powder on layers. Lime burned the flesh faster, cut the smell, killed some germs. Practical, but still awful. Moving the bodies took strength and stomach. Carts sometimes helped, piled high, but often men carried them one by one. Slippery, heavy, falling apart. Some slid into the pit wrong, blocking space. Workers yelled, pushed, kept going. At night, torches burned. Animals howled nearby. The job never stopped until the last body went in and dirt covered it all. These graves scarred the land. Grass grew back slow. Rain washed soil away sometimes, showing bones. But most stayed hidden for centuries. When found now, they tell thee, quiet end of war, no glory, just dirt and forgotten men. The cleanup finished the cycle. Battles started with pride, ended with pits. Everything stripped, everything buried. The field went back to quiet until the next war. Lime was not cheap. Back then, it took work to make burning limestone in hot fires, grinding it down. People saved it for building or whitewashing walls. But after a battle, they threw it into the pits by the handful. Why? Because the smell was unbearable, even with lime. Burning the rot faster and cutting the stench a bit, those gravesites stank for weeks. The air stayed thick and sweet sour. Flies never left. Anyone walking nearby gagged or got sick. It showed how bad things got. People wasted valuable stuff just to make the horror a little less bad. And don't forget the horses. Battles killed hundreds of them too. A dead horse is huge, much bigger than a man. 10 times the weight, hard to move. Some sources say winners just left horse bodies where they fell. Others dragged them to the edges of the field or into ditches. There they rotted in the open. Skin split, guts spilled, bones showed. Scavengers, dogs, wolves, crows tore at them for days or weeks. The smell mixed with human rot, making the whole area feel cursed. Sometimes locals burned horse piles if they could, but wood was scarce and fires hard to keep going. Mostly, nature took its time. Mass graves worked in a brutal, quick way, but they left marks that lasted. Locals remembered exactly where the pits were. Don't plow there, they'd tell their kids. Don't build a house. The ground felt wrong, heavy, unlucky. Some battlefields stayed empty for generations. Farmers avoided them. Grass grew wild. Trees came slow. Archaeology finds this today. Layers of soil with no signs of plows or homes right after big fights. The land remembered the dead, even if people tried to forget. For peasants living near war zones, this became normal life. Armies marched in. Battles happened. You hid in woods or cellars while swords clashed. Then silence. You came out, saw the mess, and got pulled in to dig or carry. You did it once, twice, maybe many times in your life. It was just part of the year, like harvest or winter cold. No one talked about it much. No songs, just work then back too. The fields, the digs at Visby and other sites show no ceremony for most. No crosses, no prayers, no priests reading words. Nobles might get last rites, a quick blessing if a churchman was around. But common men, there were problems to solve, not souls to save. Thrown in fast, covered quick. The church cared more about the rich who gave money. The rest were waste to clear. Everything happened in a rush. Every extra hour bodies stayed out meant more flies, more bad water, more fever starting. Commanders knew disease could wipe out an army faster than swords, so pits got filled fast. No time for nice rows or names. Sometimes they tried to separate their undead from the enemies. A small grave for friends, a big one for foes. But often space ran out or time pressed. Everyone ended up mixed. French next to English, German beside Italian. In death, no sides mattered. Just dirt and bones in the same hole. What haunts me most is the total loss of names. Thousands of men had mothers who waited, wives who worried, kids who asked, "Where's Papa?" They had jokes they told, fears they hid, dreams they carried. Then, one day gone, no marker, no stone with a name, no story passed down. Nobles got their names in books, tombs in churches, songs about their bravery. But these common fighters, the ones who really bled and died, vanished, bones tangled, in a pit, forgotten. It feels so unfair, even now, 600 or 700 years later. They were people, not trash, but medieval life treated them like it. The mass grave might be the real symbol of that time's war. Cold, fast, no feeling for the person. Just get it done and move on. But surviving the battle, the chase, the blades, the pits, that did not mean you were safe. The real killer often came later. Disease, the invisible one. It did not care who won. It did not care if you were a knight with gold or a peasant with nothing. Rich or poor, soldier or villager, it took anyone it touched. After a big battle, disease found perfect chances. Bodies in pits leaked into streams. Water turned bad. Flies carried germs from rot to food. Wounded men, even if they escaped, had dirty cuts that swelled and turned hot. No clean bandages, no medicine that worked. Camps filled with tired, hurt men sleeping close. Bad food, no baths. Rain made mud and filth everywhere. Camp fever, dysentery, blood poisoning. These spread like fire. One man coughed or had loose bowels, and soon dozens did. Armies lost more to sickness after battles than during them sometimes. Villages nearby got hit too. A traveller carried it home. A looter brought germs on clothes. Whole areas suffered. For months, you thought the swords were the danger, but the quiet killer waited after. It finished what the battle started. Picture this, the battle is over. The last scream has faded. The ground is soaked in blood, littered with broken shields and bent swords. Thousands of bodies lie still under the sun. Horses too big, heavy. Carcasses starting to bloat. Flies are already buzzing in thick clouds. The smell hits you first. Sweet, thick rot that sticks in your throat. Water nearby looks normal, but it's already turning bad. Camps are full of tired men, camp followers, animals, all squeezed together with no clean place to go to the bathroom, no fresh water to drink. This is not just a messy field anymore. This is a perfect trap for sickness, and sickness always came. The battle could kill thousands in one day, quick, brutal deaths. But disease worked slower. It spread over weeks, months. It could take tens of thousands more. Sometimes the sickness killed way more people than the fighting ever did. There was no armor against it, no plan, no medicine that really worked. Medieval doctors tried. They boiled herbs, cut open wounds to let pus out, prayed over patients. But bacterial infections, they had nothing. A small cut from a dirty sword could swell red, turn black, spread heat through the whole body. The man would burn with fever for days, scream in pain, then slip away quietly. Water couldn't be made safe easily. Boil it if you had wood and time, most didn't. Waste piled up everywhere. Human, animal, food scraps. In rain it turned to mud soup full of germs. In heat it dried and blew as dust. No toilets, no sewers, just filth building up. They knew rotting bodies brought death in another form. They didn't know germs or viruses existed, but they saw that pattern. Leave dead out too long and more people got sick. They called it miasma, bad air from decay. They weren't completely wrong. Rot did spread sickness through flies, rats, dirty water, even if they missed how. So they buried. Fast. Dig pits. Throw bodies in. Cover with dirt and lime if they could afford it. It was their only real defense. Archaeology shows the proof today. Dig up medieval mass graves, and the bones tell sad stories. Rough, bumpy patches on long bones from periostitis. Ongoing infection eating at the surface. Swollen holes in bone. From osteomyelitis, marrow turned rotten and inflamed. These weren't quick kills from a clean lance thrust. These were slow deaths. Men who lay for days with fever, pain shooting through limbs, weakness growing until breathing stopped. They died in agony, far from home, far from anyone who cared. The danger didn't leave with the armies. Some fields became cursed lands for years. Locals called them sickly places. Don't drink from that stream, they'd warn. Don't let kids play near that old pit. Contamination soaked deep into soil and groundwater. Wells stayed bad. Rain brought old poisons up again. With no good cleaning systems, the sickness lingered. A traveler passing months later could catch fever. A farmer ploughing nearby might wake up burning hot. Villagers lost people long after the banners were gone. For generals, this made war terrifying in a new way. You could win perfectly smart tactics. Brave charge, enemy broken and running. Celebrate. But then sickness hits. Half your army gone. In a month, men who survived arrows now dying in tents, shaking, sweating, coughing blood. Victory tasted like ash. Some historians say this fear changed how battles were fought. Commanders learned, end it quick, win fast, then march away hard and fast. Get to fresh air, clean rivers, new ground. Stay too long near the rot, and you risk losing everything you've just gained. What really haunts me is how powerless they were. Knights wore the best steel armor. Armies had long bows, heavy lances, clever plans, but against tiny things no one could see. Bacteria in water, on flies, in wounds, all that power meant nothing. Armor rusted while men died inside. Swords stayed sharp while friends wasted away. They knew they were helpless. They knew a glorious win could turn into watching your camp become a graveyard. Imagine the nights after battle, quiet except for moans, coughs, cries for water. You lie awake, wondering if tomorrow you'll feel the heat start in your chest. No pills, no hospitals, just wait. Hope, and hope broke often. Disease was the only fair thing in that whole unfair system. It didn't ask for titles or gold. A duke with land and servants could die just like the peasant who carried his shield. Winner or loser, same fever, brave or coward, same pain. In a war built on class, ransom, and money, sickness was the one force that didn't care about any of it. It took whoever it reached. So here is the complete, unfiltered picture of what really happened after a medieval battle ended. The retreat turned into a slaughter. Men hunted down and cut from behind like animals, running for their lives. Wounded got mercy from thin daggers, systematic, row by row. Quick ends to long pain. Corpses stripped naked in hours' armor. Clothes, weapons, rings taken and turned into money or tools. Ransom saved, nobles comfortable waits, good food, eventual. Freedom. Peasants. No value. No ransom, just death. Thousands of bodies thrown into huge pits, hurried, tangled, nameless. Covered fast to stop worse sickness. Then disease came from bad water, flies breeding in rot, rats running from corpses, infected wounds oozing pus, camps full of filth. It killed more than any sword ever could. This is the part movies cut out. Games ignore. History books soften with words like aftermath or casualties. It's too ugly, too honest. It shows what humans do when violence becomes normal, when death turns into business, when killing mixes with survival and profit. But this wasn't chaos. This wasn't evil commanders gone wild. This was normal, expected, accepted. Every big battle in medieval Europe followed the same dark steps. Chase the broken, mercy the hurt, loot the dead, ransom the rich, bury in pits, wait for plague. Everyone knew. Soldiers did it. Peasants helped. Lords approved. It was the full deal of war back then. We've cleaned it up in our minds. Made knights shining heroes, battles noble clashes for honor and justice. Some of that existed, sure. Chivalry was real for some. But it lived right next to this brutal, practical, money-driven machine that treated people like things, life cheap, death profitable. The class part still sticks with me the most. Your birth decided everything. Same wound, same battlefield. One man lives because his father is a duke, gets treated gently, ransomed home. The other dies because his father is a farmer. No one pays. Knife in the back. Not just unfair, obscene. But no one back then questioned it. It was the natural order. Nobles valuable, peasants not. Simple, and maybe that's the biggest lesson staring back at us. When we feel shocked by their world, the systematic killing, the commodification of bodies, the acceptance of horror, we should stop and look at our own. What are we accepting today as normal that people 700 years from now will call barbaric? What systems do we live in that treat some lives as worth more, others as disposable? What do we normalize that future eyes will see as cruel? The people back then didn't think they were monsters. They thought they were practical, following the rules of a hard, dangerous world, surviving, doing what had to be done. From their view, they were right. But time shifts perspective. What feels normal becomes horrifying with distance. They were still human. They felt the same pain, fear, grief, love we do. Their world just shaped those feelings into something colder, harder, more accepted. So yeah, that's what really happened after the battle. Worse than most imagine. Not just violence, but organized, practical, socially approved violence. Everyone joined in. Almost no one asked why. That's the disturbing truth. Not that it happened, but that everyone thought it was fine. Thanks for sticking with me through this dark ride. Now I need to step away, maybe watch the sunrise, drink some tea, think about something lighter. Take care out there, and maybe think a little about what normal really means.